What is up, guys? This is Rise and welcome to another video. The Ultra League enters rotation today in the Go Battle League, and we have another episode in the series of bringing you teams that you can run in this new league. We've got 5 teams for you from 5 different battlers slash content creators, and I think they all are very unique, and there's not a whole lot of overlap either. So if you've got a handful of Pokemon in your Ultra League arsenal, make sure to watch this video, see all 5 teams. And also at the end of the video, check out my friend Inadequence's video where he'll have 5 more teams for you to use. But first things first, let's get started. And the first thing we got for you is from one of the best battlers in the global scene, a man who is one of maybe 4 people, I want to say, to have won multiple Play Pokemon tournaments. Those players being It's Axon, Wadaj, this guy right here, Zardy, and I forget who the 4th guy is. But this team is a team that I have actually run myself quite a bit in the Ultra League, and Shadow Alolan Sandslash is just been such a good pick in both the Great League and the Ultra League ever since getting that move Drill Run to give it some consistent ground coverage for steel types. Not only is it an ice type that can beat the flyers, but it can also beat the steel types as well in the right conditions. So Alolan Shadow Sandslash, along with Giratina Altered Form and Tapu Fini, of course, a pretty strong meta team that you have a lead that's weak to fire. It's also weak to fighting, and both of your back Pokemon cover that quite nicely. Of course, Giratina being a ghost type, it's going to cover those fighting types, and it's a dragon as well. So if you see a fire type, it has play there. And Tapu Fini, the same thing. A fairy type, going to resist fighting damage, also going to resist fire damage with that water typing. A team that I like to use, some core breakers for this team could be maybe like a Virizion lead, because if you see a Virizion lead, not only are you weak to it in the lead, your Tapu's weak to it as well. So you could consider just going straight Giratina in that scenario, and then hoping you can maybe get some sort of advantage within that matchup. Maybe get a farm down with your Sandslash. Maybe start drawing some shields off of the Virizion, because then you can Moonblast it in the back. So Mr. Zardy, a world-class battler from Brazil. Shout out Brazil, making team number 1. And after Zardy, we go into a legend, a myth, a man. That was the wrong order of which that sequence is usually said. But this is a man by the name of Martine, also by the name of Inadequence. I've never asked him where that name came from. I should ask him. That's kind of an interesting name. But he's rocking a team of Virizion, Shadow Drapion, which I've recently learned it's correctly pronounced Drapion, but I don't really care. I think I'm going to just keep saying Drapion. I feel like Drapion just sounds better. Does anyone watching this video actually say Drapion when referring to Drapion? I don't know. It's kind of linguistics, right? Like, it might technically be the correct term, but if people don't use it, is it really the correct term? Anyhow, Jellicent in the back, or the Jellymeister, as we like to call it. So Inadequence opting to go for Sacred Sword Stone Edge with this team he has, and it allows a little bit more versatility, because if you dance around, and Drapion's such a flexible pick, he probably sees himself swapping out a decent amount with this team. Stone Edge is going to give you that versatility against the Flyers. It's going to make you a little bit less good against water types. However, he has a lot of water coverage. I mean, Shadow Drapion does really well against Tapu Fini, does really well against opposing Jellicent. Jellicent does well against Tapu Fini, so perhaps he feels like he doesn't really need the Leaf Blade coverage with this team, and Stone Edge can come in handy more often. Shadow Drapion, such a flexible pick. There's not a whole lot that's going to hard counter it. What core breakers could we see for this team? Maybe like a Mandibuzz would be a core breaker, because Shadow Drapion is really your only solid answer, but you are able to fight back with that Stone Edge from Virizion. And Jellicent with Surf, although it's still a pretty bad matchup, Surf has allowed Jellicent to have some more reliable water-type damage that you can inflict on your opponents, and makes matchups like the Snorlax, which used to be pretty brutal, not that bad anymore, because you can keep spamming off Surfs. That is team number 2. from Mr. Inadequate. And team number 3 comes from Miss Andres, a Spanish battler who really, I think a lot of European battlers were well aware of her for a long time now, but really made her mark on kind of the global PvP community with the Turin regional, where she was the runner-up to a fellow female battler, Paulasha, and that was pretty cool. The first time 2 female battlers met in the grand finals of a tournament, and a pretty stacked tournament at that. So Andres, really impressive battle. I remember the first time I saw her battle on stream, it was against Frika, and I had never seen Andres before, but I knew Frika as a former Worlds competitor. I think he made Day 2 Worlds in London, and I had a lot of, I thought really, really high of Frika as a battler. I still do. So I saw Andres upset Frika on stream. I'm like, wow, like that's a big upset. And I said that in the chat, and then a bunch of people were like, not really. Andres is just that good. And she proved it with her performances at other Play Pokemon tournaments. So terrific battler, and she's rocking a team of Golisopod, Gliscor, and Cobalion. Cobalion is similar to Virizion in terms of its moveset. Double kick, Stone Edge, Sacred Sword, but it has a steel typing instead of a grass typing. So it's going to allow it to resist ice damage as opposed to Virizion taking super effective from ice damage. Golisopod, now with X-Scissor getting kind of nerfed, kind of buffed, however you want to view it, not going to be quite as spammy to those X-Scissors, but a very safe Pokemon with that unique typing. Doesn't have a whole lot of hard counter matchups. I like running Golisopod myself in Ultra League, and I feel like it always gives your opponent issues when you swap it, because if they meet it with like a Registeel, there's just no fast move pressure. You're outpacing them to the liquidation. You might get a debuff. And then, of course, Gliscor now with the Aerial Ace buff, you could take advantage of that. It looks like Andres is opting for Night Slash instead of Aerial Ace, which kind of makes sense, because if you're seeing things like Jellicent, like Giratina, like Cresselia, I think having that Night Slash is still going to be quite valuable for Gliscor. When I saw that Cobalion for a sec, I was like, wait, is that Aurorus? They have a little bit of a resemblance, because I went for the shiny. Rise, you've had the shiny Cobalion in the graphic. Do I have to use the shiny? Yes, you have to use the shiny. Just kidding, Leonardo. You don't have to use the shiny. We're just having fun here. Next team, Magic Mason. Magic Mason, Toronto Regional Champion. I'll be seeing him, I'm sure, this weekend over in Pittsburgh. And this is a team I've seen him run on stream before. A really fun team. On paper, has some glaring weaknesses, right? So Abomasnow would be a glaring weakness. You also have Virizion in the back. Like, you're double weak to a lot of things in the back. You're double weak to Swampert in the back. You're double weak to Steelix. So Ampharos is used as a safe swap. And if you run this team, like, unless you catch a great lead where your opponent's the one swapping out, like, you're probably going to have to swap the Ampharos at some point. Like, you have to lure out the ground type. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Or, like, if you get a good lead, you can potentially stay in and then swap out after securing that lead matchup to lure something out with Ampharos. So, Trevenant, of course, great against fighting types, great against the Swamperts of the world, the water types, like Tapu Fini, like Jellicent, and then your double electric in the back, which is pretty fun. Ampharos, if they don't have an obvious answer for it, that Volt Switch, Brutal Swing, Trailblaze, that diverse moveset, plus you could, let's say you swap Ampharos and they swap in like a Registeel or a Steelix, probably a Steelix more likely, that's a harder answer. You want to build up to 5 Volt Switches to threaten that Focus Blast. Because if you do less than 5, there's really no incentive for a Steelix to shield. But now, like, if they swap in a Swampert, they got to respect that Trailblaze as well. So, Ampharos, very diverse moveset. And then Magnezone, you're going to want to save shields for. Shadow Magnezone, I have used so much. Well, I guess I've used mostly normal, regular Magnezone, but I've used Shadow as well. And it's just ridiculously glassy, but it hits ridiculously hard. And if you can save shields for it, or get a farm down potentially, it can just go berserk. Now with Volt Switch a better move than Spark. However, it is a 4-turn move, so it's a little bit slower in terms of the animation. and it's going to make it a little bit easier for opponents to catch. So just be aware of that if you decide to run this Magic Mason line. Also, shout out to Magic Mason and his stream. Go follow him there. That takes us to team number 5. And team number 5 is from a man by the name of Tomahawk. And a battler from the UK, made a name for himself at the Warsaw Regional, where he was the runner-up this past season, I believe. And a cool team from him. We see another Cobalion with a Pidgeot lead and Escavalier in the back. So you kind of got your anti-fighter and then 2 steel types in the back. And steel types that generally beat opposing steel types, like Registeel, like Steelix. So a team that makes a lot of sense. Cobalion going to be the safe swap. And Escavalier, I've always been a fan of, with its ability to be a steel type that generally beats the other steel types. And with Drill Run, Mega Horn, you could also opt, if you're feeling cheeky, for like Aerial Ace now that it's been buffed. It's a little bit cheaper of a move. You could opt for Acid Spray, which sometimes will really flip matchups, right? Like if you're in the end game and shields are still up and you have Acid Spray on your Escavalier, that could totally flip the end game. You might annoy your opponent in the process, but if you get the win, it is what it is. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And yeah, Pidgeot, of course, with its Feather Dance capability, is just a menace at times to deal with. Some core breakers with this team would be Deoxys Defense. Deoxys Defense don't have an obvious answer to it. Pidgeot's probably the best answer. But if you can debuff it, if you can land the Brave Bird, make it more manageable to get rid of, I think you can try and dance around a Deoxys Defense. And I feel like in Ultra League, Deoxys is most often used in the lead because people like to be able to Psycho Boost and dip. So if you see in the lead, that's great because Pidgeot's your best answer. And if you can try and keep that alignment, you should be okay. So shout out to Tomahawk. Shout out to Mason, Andres, and Adequance, and Zardy for the team submissions. Kept this video a little bit short and sweet. 5 team ideas for you guys to use in the Ultra League, which comes out today. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button, comment down below. All comments are appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check out Inadequance's video with 5 more elite Ultra League teams. All that said, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.